Hey there, I'm Pete Townsend, and this is Money Never Sleeps. We look inside the minds of entrepreneurs and at the crossover of startups, enterprise, finance, technology, and life as we know it. In this episode, I'm joined by my first guest co-host in the post-Owen era, Laura Walsh. Laura and I worked together closely for the past 2 years on the Techstars Web3 Accelerator, and she's an angel investor, advisor, founder, Web3 OG, and friend. I'll link all of her details into the show notes so you can get in touch with Laura. In this Money Talk segment, Laura and I step through the likely outcomes, some widely agreed, others more hopeful, of the recent SEC ruling in favor of Grayscale that many expect will open up the floodgates for the trillions of institutional capital currently on the sidelines of crypto. We also look at the positioning of NFTs, or dynamic digital assets as Laura calls them, as the core technology to drive more expansive yet personalized loyalty programs for big brands and sports teams, all with the help of Berisha's sporting crypto newsletter. Laura also gives us a rundown on 2 new venture capital funds focused on Web3 from MoonPay and Vessel Capital, and we also exercised our right to question what the heck is Elon Musk up to now. All right here on Money Never Sleeps. But listen, Laura Walsh, this is your second time on the show, but it's your first time doing this Money Talk segment with me. So
it is. This is
honored
new.
to have you on as our first guest co-host of Money Never Sleeps in the post-Owen Fitzgerald era.
The honor is mine. Owen has huge shoes to fill, and I don't think any of our, particularly sure if any of the guest hosts can fill them, but I don't think I can. He's got massive shoes to fill.
He is up for an award, which the National FinTech Awards that are being held the 14th of September. I'll be unable to go because I can't get around that well. But it's him and Mai Santa Maria were both nominated for Public Servant of the Year.
Oh, but they're both such lovely people.
I know.
How do you choose?
I don't.
Sophie's choice. You can't choose. You cannot choose.
Yeah, so shout out to both Owen and to Mai, and good luck to the two of them. I wouldn't call them my kids. Definitely, I'm younger than both of them. Sorry, I'm older than both of them. But it's like, rooting for your kids playing against each other in a game. So.
I just hope everyone has fun.
Absolutely. No, it's at this place called the Mansion House, I think. So everybody's going to have fun. It's a black tie event. So
Very
I had
nice.
2 wonderful invitations that I had to decline. One from our friends at Defactor Labs. So Alejandro Gutierrez, shout out to Alejandro and to Neve Lenahan, but also Patrick Pinchmit at Middle Game Ventures also invited me, and I had to decline that as well. But hey, it's good for my foot in the long run, right?
Yep. Save your stamina for another day.
Absolutely. Laura, anything you wanted to share before we get started?
Yes, because I listened to your episode with Owen when you were talking about our epic escape to New York.
Yes.
And the anecdote about me meeting Vitalik in Waterloo. I had my AirPods in and I was sitting at my kitchen table, and we were in Canada for the summer, and I was sitting at my kitchen table, and you said, oh, well, we could have got him to talk to with her. I was like, Pete, you ass. I told you what I said. I terrified the poor man. And I don't know if he listens to this. So I apologize. I felt so bad. And I was not prepared, which I should be, because I'm telling companies to always have your elevator pitch ready. Founders, hey, be ready because the opportunity could be there at any time. I just honestly did not expect Vitalik to be walking off of my floor while I'm getting off of my floor to go to my room, him to be coming into the elevator, nobody else around. So I could have made a bigger ass of myself. But I just literally, it was like, oh, you really exist. You're a person. Somebody you've only seen in conferences or on websites or videos, and it's, oh, hi. And I just literally was my usual OTT self. And I was like, Vitalik, hi. And he was, oh my God. He literally flattened himself against the elevator wall. And, I went, oh no. I did introduce myself. But there's no way. I was just like, I'm Laura from Techstars. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
It's really nice to you. And I just went, oh, shut up. In my own head, I'm screaming at myself, shut up. What are you doing? Or at least, hey, say that you're who you're here with. Ask him to the dinner. And he looked so terrified. I was like, I can't do this to this poor man. I've scared him. I have literally, I'm pretty sure he should have security around him now because there's, wild women in the elevator just yelling at him. hello. He's like, whoa, so I'm like, oh.
Laura
My
meeting
Canadian
Vitalik.
took over. My Canadianness took over, and I just kept a pulse. Sorry. And I sorried my way to my room and then died a bit. I was like,
oh, I felt so terrible. And when I
felt
said that
so
to
bad.
Owen on the podcast, I thought I was saving your soul a bit by not telling the story. And just by saying she might have been able to get him to, to join us.
Way.
But it was like, imagine if you said to him what I said to Bono when I met Bono, which was kind of similar thing. Walking into a bar, I'm like, our eyes met. I'm like, extended my hand. I'm like, hello.
Yeah. Hi.
I said, hello. You've brought so much joy to my life. I'm a big fan. I just wanted to say thank you. My name is Pete Townsend. And he looks at me and smiles and slaps me on the shoulder and says, yeah, right. And he walks right past me. He didn't believe that my name was Pete Townsend.
Because your name was Pete Townsend.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
And then I tried to get a picture with him, a selfie, and Googie, his buddy,
like, no, not you.
is like, no, if we do it with you, we'll have to do it with everybody. And I saw him whispering to Googie just after he, walked past me, like, because Googie just looked at me like, all right, yeah, he's on the
blacklist. He's going now. Or this guy thinks he's Pete Townsend. He's like way off his rocker.
Totally, he's hammered. But if you had said that to Vitalik, hello, you brought so much joy to my life. I'm such a big fan. Then, so what you said was fine.
I really love the badger dance.
There you go.
Do you really only wear Uniqlo clothes? Oh yeah. I saw the terror in that man's eyes and I went, I can't. I can't. I could not do that because that's just wrong.
Okay.
I don't know if he's neurodivergent, but I was like, I am.
Something.
So yeah, I am. So I recognize it in somebody. I'm like, oh no, that's no. Okay. He's going to have a panic attack or something. I need to leave this poor man alone.
Oh, I read Tim Ferriss's Tribe of Mentors over the summer, and it was written in 2017. And Vitalik was one of the people that submitted answers to the 5 or 6 questions that Tim asked everybody who responded to the book.
Oh, wow.
And it was very much like hearing a robot respond.
Yeah.
Or not a robot, but an AI program that you're engaging with a chatbot and having these very measured, logical, mathematical responses. And I'm like, wow, that's deep. And then there was 3 or 4 more crypto people that were also responding to those questions from Tim Ferriss. Same thing. And it's like reading them is almost like trying to depict a mathematical proof. The geometry ones where it was more logical based that I used to love way back in the day. But that was it. So there's something going on there. There's something that's going on there enabled him to create Ethereum. So
absolutely.
I'm not going to fault him for it.
He's done amazing things, so I do apologize for ambushing the poor man.
You'll get another chance if you keep going.
I'm sure I will. I will, and I won't be so scary.
But listen, I've been chomping at the bit to talk about this with somebody, and this is the Grayscale result. And this has been a very long ordeal that's been going on for a while. And Grayscale run the Bitcoin Trust, and that it is not an exchange-traded fund. And there are some mechanical reasons for how a trust operates versus how an exchange-traded fund that would operate that we're not going to get into today, that it would make it a lot more beneficial and a lot more widely marketable if Grayscale were able to do this. Never mind, we have Fidelity, we have BlackRock, we have Invesco, Wisdom Tree, ARK, VanEck, a bunch of others all lined up to
Valkyrie and Bitwise. I think. And Invesco. Yep. You said Invesco Galaxy, right? Yeah.
I said Invesco, but not Galaxy. Thank you for picking
Galaxy.
that one up. So all that have filed applications with the SEC to launch a spot Bitcoin ETF. And the SEC's concerns all this time, and those applications are still on hold, and we'll get to that in a minute. The SEC has long been pushing back on these, saying that the market is manipulatable, if that is a word, in that the prices are manipulatable. So how could you rely on that? And what has been approved in the past is the Bitcoin futures ETFs. So same reference price. And that was the crux of the case that Grayscale was saying. We want to convert this to an exchange traded fund. And the SEC said no. So Grayscale said, we're going to turn around and we're going to sue the SEC for this, something called the Administrative Procedures Act, for making arbitrary and capricious decisions. And the Supreme Court, was it Supreme Court? No. The court ruled, the judge ruled that,
Court of Appeals in DC. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That the SEC was being arbitrary and capricious. and I saw a wonderful follow-up tweet. I forget who it was. Sorry, a post on X. It's going to take me a long time to say that.
I will never say that. I'm sorry. I will never say it.
I said to my kids, let's call it something new. Let's call it Twixer. And as a crossover. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that with you, Dad.
Yeah.
But the follow-up tweet was a young toddler saying to his father that, Dad, you withholding those blueberries this morning was both arbitrary and capricious.
Well done.
Yes. So
well done.
We're getting going in the right direction on this. And there's a lot more to dig into on it. But opening thoughts from you?
It's about time, honestly. And everything that's come out of this SEC in the last, I'd say, 2 years has not been, let's say, Web3 friendly in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. Whether it's Bitcoin stablecoins, the recent action against that NFT issuer, mm-hmm. Operation Choke Point 2.0, the advice letters sent to banks to please not basically handle anything in crypto or any company that engages in crypto. It's good to see. Which I'm sure you're probably going to get to. The concern is the BlackRock filing. All of a sudden, BlackRock's thrown their hat into the ring. And to be fair, Gensler's saying that, oh, well, you can manipulate the price and you can do this to anything with a Bitcoin ETF to see BlackRock get in there. And people have their eyes on this because they're anticipating favorable treatment for BlackRock. And that's my cautiously optimistic, but realistically, I don't know.
What they've done is that they've pushed back on the BlackRock and Fidelity and everyone else's applications till mid-October. Mm-hmm. And that is in alignment with the 45 days that the SEC have to appeal the decision on the Grayscale case. So let's wait till October. But I just don't see a way for the SEC to continue to, maybe they could delay it further, but have a legitimate pushback. Now, they already did push back on these. Mm-hmm. And they said that they would like to see a surveillance agreement in place on the reference price being used and who is going to be monitoring that. And I think Coinbase have stepped in to provide that surveillance service. I think they are doing that alongside the CME, who trade the Bitcoin futures. So they already have kind of the market infrastructure in place in order to do that surveillance on the market, to be able to say, yes, the prices that are coming in are legit. So I think mm-hmm. that, will they find another reason to push back? Aside to, who knows? But it was a big step in the right direction. I think it was Paul Grewal who is the Coinbase CLO, Chief Legal Officer, who I've had breakfast mm-hmm. with. He's a really nice guy. And he said, it's a great moment for the industry. While we still believe comprehensive federal crypto legislation is the best way forward, decisions like this are an important step towards the clarity the industry needs. It's a piece of the puzzle, not the end all be all. That last sentence is my add into that, not his quote, mm-hmm. right? This is a big piece of the puzzle. Now, I think what's going to happen here over the long term, and Owen and I talked about this back, I think it was episode 212. I've been looking at all the news around this, right? Everything that's coming out. And if you look at who's publishing it, you get where it's coming from. So the FT will take mm-hmm. one angle because they know who their audience are, traditional finance, who are trying to preserve their life as big players in the industry. And so they're going to take one angle. I did see an angle yesterday from someone, I forget who it was, that was like, listen, this whole compartmentalization of Bitcoin into ETFs goes against the grain of the decentralization spirit of Bitcoin. And but I'm okay with that for now. Here's why. What I expect to happen is for when these do get approved, when Grayscale is approved to flip from a trust to an ETF, when BlackRock, Fidelity, all the rest get approved, there's going to be at least, I'd expect, $500 billion worth of institutional capital that would be poured into these Bitcoin ETF strategies over the next 2 to 3 years. And that is because if crypto, Bitcoin specifically, the biggest 70% of the crypto market between Bitcoin and Ethereum, if that is viewed as a major asset class in the universe of asset classes out there, then institutional allocators should be allocating to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And that is the science. And if that starts to take hold in things like retirement funds and other big institutional funds, such as endowments and charities, if their economists are saying you need to allocate here, then there is demand for it. However, those institutional investors are restricted from investing in anything that is not regulated. So if you put an ETF wrapper around Bitcoin, it then becomes a regulated asset. Okay. Hopefully more regulation will come in the US, such as the US version of MiCA, which is the EU crypto regulation. And that what will happen is that perhaps in 4 or 5 years' time, we won't need the ETFs anymore. And that the institutional allocators will be able to go direct and will be able to buy crypto rather than paying 2%. Because that's in effect what they're doing is they're paying a 2% management fee.
Management fee, yeah, for the bucket of assets. Yeah.
The big asset managers who buy Bitcoin and hold it in a fund for these institutional investors to invest in, because they're buying into shares of a fund. They don't have to go through the complexities of buying crypto directly. So I think we're going to have a 4 to 5 year run here. It's crazy looking at it this way because these things haven't even launched yet, but we still have DVD players, right?
Yeah.
We still even have VCRs. And to me, holding Bitcoin in an old school style investment fund that has been running in the same framework for the last 20 years for ETFs, even beyond that, is downloading your software and putting it in a cardboard box and storing it there overnight. It's nonsensical. But for crypto adoption, for all of this to take off, I think it is a necessary step in order to gain this more universal acceptance of crypto as an asset class. So I'm obviously a big fan of where this is going.
Yeah, there's a couple of things with this I can see, the positive and the negative. Obviously, it makes a lot of sense to people who aren't, one, familiar with anything that digital assets are and are, let's say, gun shy in a way of dipping their toe in. But not only that, we as an industry has not made it easy nor attractive for anyone who is not in the industry to put their money in. Just invoke the devil now and say FTX anyhow.
Yeah.
Because when you said pension funds, I remember the Ontario Teachers Pension Fund was one of their biggest investments was in FTX, and they lost it all. So when you're talking about pension funds, some pension funds have ventured forth and have riskier, let's say, investments, but with the implosion of FTX and 3AC, they're way more gun shy now. They're way more tentative to put money into anything that could even be considered nascent in the financial world. But also, what is Bitcoin? Is it a commodity? Is it an asset? And the US still hasn't decided on what it is. Is it under CFTC or is it under the SEC? A lot of people would argue the SEC does not have jurisdiction over digital assets because they have more commodity-like attributes and characteristics than it does the monetary asset. But that'll depend on whatever, I'm guessing, I'm not American, but I'm guessing whatever that bill moving through Congress, I'm guessing that will...
That's what I'm hoping
outcome
for.
of that bill. Yeah, the outcome of that bill will determine the regulatory arena in which Bitcoin and other digital assets will play in.
Very much in Europe, where we started with the virtual asset service provider regulation, which was equivalent really to the money services bureau or money transmitter license type of licenses that are available in the US, which is basically you need to do your AML KYC and monitor for money laundering. And but specifically geared towards crypto service providers, the VASP framework is. And so the US needs to do that first, right? And get a VASP-like regime in place. And I think one of the bills that's being proposed to go through right now would do that, at least the first part of it, but then take it to the much bigger level, like Europe has done with MiCA, and where that is more expansive across defining what assets are, defining what the jurisdiction is. There's a lot more to it, and the US needs to follow suit.
Yeah.
I think eventually, once that happens, then you will have the ability and the comfort of institutional investors to look at crypto, as long as the service providers who you're engaging with to buy and sell crypto are regulated. And that's where this is going. It's the service providers who will be regulated, much in the same way that a fund can be looked at as a service provider. An asset manager running a fund and their administrator, their custodian, are a bunch of service providers together, and they're all regulated.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why adding this layer in makes institutional investors feel more safe than investing in a venture capital type strategy investment as in FTX, right? I think, again, it's going to be a long run. Where I really like this going, though, is that if we do really get this rising tide lifts all boats impact on crypto, like you said, crypto hasn't done a great job of making it easy for people to adopt this asset class. And a lot of it has to do with the user experience. I still, like, I've got my Ledger X on my desktop, messing around with that. And okay, I've got two wallets that I use actively. I use MetaMask. I use the Coinbase wallet. I use the Coinbase app. I'm moving stuff around. I'm no expert. I know my stuff, but I'm no expert. And it's still a hassle and it's still some guesswork.
Yep.
If I want to use just the Coinbase app, that's easy. But if you want to do a lot more in terms of engaging truly into the Web3 world, you kind of have to move outside that. And you need that freedom to be able to authenticate yourself. And that then means self-custody, and that means a whole bunch of other stuff. If the rising tide lifts all boat impact becomes true, then what will happen is tons of more institutional money flowing into this, not only at the fund level, ETS, but also at the venture level, to fund what we need to be the massive improvements in user experience, to get the whole crypto experience from a 1982 Ford Escort with a missing sunroof, two-tone, brown and tan, like I had in high school, to the Tesla, right? The ergonomic experience in the cockpit and that wonderful surprise and delight you get combined with a unbelievably solar-powered electric engine. I don't know. I'm over-engineering my engineering understanding here.
I don't know. I've been saying this for 5 years now, that if you're going to use crypto and you actually want adoption, it has to be like going onto Amazon and ordering something. And you don't know what's going on behind the Amazon app where you're ordering something. And to be frank, nobody really cares unless you're investigating Amazon warehouses. But for the average consumer buying something on Amazon, all they want to do is buy with one click and it goes where I want it to go. And I pay the way I want to pay, and that's it. It's a seamless experience. It shouldn't be, oh, hold on, I've got to put in this code and then that code and then this code, and wait, I have to double check this alphanumeric 16 to 20, 32 character hexadecimal string of, I don't know what that is. Okay, let me check. Okay, and yeah, I've done this for years. I've done this for years and years and years. I've been the manager of funds like this for protocols where I've had to do multi-sigs, make sure everything, and then track it. And we used Silvergate for a few years, and that was a nightmare because it was like using a bank in 1998.
Yep.
That level of Microsoft database, and you didn't approve within 24 hours. It's in a different time zone, so that is not helpful. And if we actually want adoption, it has to be so easy to use that you don't even know you're using it.
Exactly.
But you can't sacrifice the security. And I think might have gone too fast in one way, and security just fell off.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's been always the fine line you need to walk between security and usability. And as our friend Jesse Phillips at Trustware says, the USA of crypto, which is kind of funny given where all this is stemming from: usability, security, and accessibility. So shout out to Jesse. But all right,
Jesse.
Listen, we've done this one to death. So let's move on. But in the nature of going beyond crypto, more into the world of Web3, this is from Pet Berisha, and shout out to Pet. I've given him a shout out before. I've known Pet since 2017 when he was helping to produce one of the very first podcasts I was on, or he was a producer alongside one of his colleagues. And the first one I did with 11FS, and stayed in touch with him. He's now doing his own thing, the Sporting Crypto newsletter. He's building a community around that. It's a consultancy. And so this is his weekly column, Sporting Crypto, and generally gets into what sports brands are doing in the Web3 space. But the title of this week's edition is Web3 Loyalty, Buzzword or Breakthrough. And that, just to tee this one up, 2021, 2022, there was so much interest in NFTs. And NFTs in terms of, and you know the story, Laura, and the bored boys buying apes, whatever you want to call it. And we started out with this kind of JPEG plus type, but legitimately was being built around being part of a tribe, being part of a community. And the toxicity of it, the non-toxicity of it, who knows? But I don't think it was, like you said, very productive in terms of helping to drive crypto adoption. Because people just looking at it, like, what was that? Then we moved into, okay, now we can do a bit more with this, and that people moving into things such as using this for token gated experiences, and that you can get access to, say, a pre-sale for your favorite band's new gig with this NFT that you hold, and you authenticate yourself when you go onto the ticket website, you could get access to the pre-sale because you are a legitimate, true fan of this band. And now, along all of that, the big brands became very much interested in this, and we've seen Nike and Adidas and tons of others do a lot in this space. But now it's going to the next level with Starbucks, and I've talked about this before again with others on the podcast, and Starbucks doing their NFT-driven loyalty program. But like you said, to Starbucks drinkers, if you want to call them that, they don't know there's an NFT in the background, right? It should be a digital experience. So can we actually move this space forward and say that with the ability to own your own assets in a decentralized way, and I don't think the average consumer cares about whether it's decentralized or not, it's just what's the impact of that you can do if your loyalty points are something that you can then do something else with. But what Pet is trying to say here is that there's been so much done in the NFT space. And to quote him, he said, "I've said this before, but NFTs were furniture without a house to furnish. Sports teams still have this issue." And again, coming at this from a sporting angle.
Yeah.
Many have licensed digital collectibles, a fan token, Web3 gaming partners, and so on, but there's no aggregated dashboard that fans can use to interact with all of these things. This begs the question, that dashboard that, say, sports fans need for all their digital collectibles that are NFT driven, whether it's tokens, whether it's video moments, whether it's exclusive picks and whatever, can that same type of white label experience that someone needs to build, can that also be used for loyalty programs? And is that even the way to do it? There's a way to go here. And I think the NFT term will just float off into the ether, no pun intended. But where do you think this is going in terms of using NFTs for loyalty programs, whether that be for big brands or sports?
I don't like the term NFT anyway, as you know.
I know.
Dynamic digital assets or something, please.
Yeah.
And if I see another really ugly 10,000 run JPEG, I'm going to lose my mind. But like, loyalty in Web3 has been going on for a really long time. That's even before NFTs came into the picture, really. I worked with a protocol back in 2017-18 that was doing provenance and tracking and things with QR codes and putting that up on the chain. And it's provenance. You can track, this goes to room A to room B to room C. And you could say that's not loyalty. It's still like it also was tied to luxury brands. So a limited edition watch. So you're still building a community around it. And you're right, it's a bit tribal, but it's all about building communities around these assets and whatever the assets are. Now, I don't have experience with the Starbucks thing because I think they only released that in the States.
Yeah.
And I haven't been going to Starbucks in the States. We're still using QR codes here in Thailand and the scans on your phone. But the way Reddit did it as well, I had no idea that I'm customizing my NFT or my dynamic digital asset here, and this is my avatar. I've seen digital avatars before. I've used them in like a company I started. We use them for people who are gaming and start your own avatar. Loyalty is very interesting, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. I know you like the soulbound tokens, and that's one way that's a verification of who you are, and you are who you say you are, and your experience is what you say it is. I find that a bit tricky and a little bit world coiny. So I'm not the biggest fan, but I'm happy to learn more and be proven wrong. But loyalty is all about building a community. And while I don't like Bored Apes, I don't, and I'm probably getting a lot of hate for this, but it's not my vibe, and that's fine.
No, I'm with you.
Somebody else's vibe, knock yourself out, just like Burning Man. Yeah. Burning Man's not my vibe, but that's fine. But the other side, when the other side came out and they all lost their minds. And so there are things to do. And even if you have this picture, what it seems what they did is they made the monkey pictures. And they're like, pardon my French, but oh shit, now we've got to do something else because, oops, like you can't just have a monkey picture. And then
so
what do we do?
It wasn't part of a master plan to do this whole community.
No. Obviously, they got celebrities on Fallon and they're all like, I'm gifting you this. And they marketed it very well. They did very well because they just hear Paris Hilton have one here, Justin Bieber have one here, somebody else have one, or I'll buy it so it looks like you bought it, so on and so forth. But it got the hype high enough that people really wanted to be in this. But it is all about building community. I find that community toxic because I find it's really gatekept and it's just full of the people you don't really want to be around, to be honest. But there are people doing it a lot better. But adding all these things onto the apes and using the apes as the access key makes sense to me.
It does.
It makes sense to me. That makes perfect sense to me. And like the company we were advising before, we're using memberships and digital memberships. You don't have to know that's an NFT. It's just a digital membership. Just like my Qatar Airways card is digital on my app. That could be a digital asset. It is a digital asset. So it's just, to be honest, whether it's on a blockchain or not, it's really not that, it's not that deep, really. It's not that deep. There's and there's community experts that can get into this way better than I can. But what I'm seeing like Adidas and Nike do with swoosh and all that, it's still quiet and it's small. Do you know what I mean? It's not a big enough push behind it, or maybe I'm just not seeing it because I'm not immersed in North American culture anymore. But it's not being pushed. But the way to push it is not to say, hey, Web3, and do the Web3 dance.
No, absolutely not.
You can absolutely say Web 2.5, or you just don't have to say anything. I don't know why we have to label it. We don't have to label anything. Or if they're saying Web3 right now, nobody wants to say Web3 right now anyway. It's like verboten. It's just say it's a digital asset, or when they're saying Web3, it's like they want to. It's like almost like a dog whistle. I'm going to tap into these degens who are still buying Miladies, all the Miladies are bought and they're into the Miladies or the Pudgy Penguins or whatever community you want to belong to, and we'll try to pull them into our area and get them to buy it as well. Don't see any benefit really in saying Web3.
Yeah, no, there's not. You need to, and it's like saying blockchain in 2017, 2018. You just remove it. And if you're pitching yourself, you cannot have on the front page of your deck, we are Web3 powered, we are Web3 integrated, we're nothing. You just got to leave that behind. And it's not just because of some of the negative sentiment coming from non-Web3 VCs, VCs that don't invest in digital assets, whatever you want to call it, that would have only invested before in these startups because of the perceived upside and quick flip and all of that that was going with this in 2022. But just because it's sensible not to rely on any technical terms. Your reference to your technology should be at the end of your deck. It's not even included in decks anymore.
Unless you need a technical deck. You don't need to actually mention the underlying tech unless it's nascent or new, or you've cracked something that is yours and yours alone.
Yep, absolutely. I think what I want to see, though, and this is where Pet was going with this, was I want to see two things. One, I want to see that app that can house all of my digital collectibles across different brands. And so that I can engage with those things. If I'm buying Nike NFTs, if I'm buying .swoosh, if I'm buying Adidas, if I'm buying whatever, to be part of that community and say, hey, I just got this really new cool pair of classic Adidas Samba that I used to wear in high school. And they're blue suede instead of black leather. Awesome. Love it. And hey, I want to express myself around that. Can I do that around the fact that my wife just got me a pair of Air Jordans for Christmas? And I want to see all that together and have the digital version of that. I may not do that, but there's a lot of folks who probably would. So I want to see that app, that super app that just condenses all of that, because it's just way too clunky right now. I also want to see that same app be used to collect, because they're digital assets as well, loyalty points across different brands that are leveraging the non-fungible token technology in order to be able to engage and reward loyalty Okay.
Mhm.
And I think that's where this is all going. Could it happen as part of this uplift with the rising tide lifts all boats? But we're bridging a lot of things together here.
But do you think that's more of, I don't think that's a technological barrier. I think it's a brand barrier.
Yeah.
The brands don't want, like, no, this is my little patch and I don't want anyone in on my patch. I think that it's not I don't actually think it's a technological barrier, dependent upon the standard they're using for their non-fungible tokens, basically. So if they're all the same standard, or even if they're compatible, there shouldn't be a technological barrier. I think it's more of a brand reputation.
I think that's the conclusion. Speaking of Web3 VCs, that they're still launching funds. You found a couple of stories there that you wanted to dig into on that.
I've been talking to our 2 cohorts, actually, over the last couple of weeks about everyone fundraising. Again, shout out Techstars Web3 Accelerator, and having conversations. And while people are doing well, it's rough out there, man. And it's not just Web3 VCs. It's the AI hype cycle seems to be, going the way of the dodo already. Yeah, because somebody I was talking to who has an AI startup who's been in stealth for a year and a half. I'm like, they don't think they're ever going to come out. Basically, it's that's past, and the big guys are into it, so we've way too far to catch up. But yeah, there's 2 funds that I saw announced, which seem to be rather not super mature, but like the fund Vessel, they just came out of stealth with $55 million fund. And oddly enough, they invested in a project here in Thailand that I know the people from there, and I know they raised like $63 million, right? At the start of the crash of everything. So I was like, oh man, guys, your timing is impeccable. Wow. I still don't know what they do. So I find it amazing. I still don't know what you do. It's like an index of guilds for Web3 games. Okay. I'm like, okay, I get that.
You can do
I don't
that.
get the monetization. You can do that. I do not understand the monetization aspect, but okay, fill your boots. And they invested in Coin98, which is popular in Southeast Asia. But like the founders seem very young, which is fine. It's Web3. I'm an old fart in Web3 anyway. So to see these young guys going is great. So it's 3 guys, but they seem to have met around Injective Labs.
Yep.
So an injective protocol, which I don't know much about, to be honest. So one of the co-founders is the head of BD there, and the other one is the CEO at Injective Labs. So there's some kind of cross-funding there. And one of the other co-founders is the CEO of Burnt, or co-founder of Burnt, which was funded by Injective. There's a lot of cross.
Totally.
Your network in Web3 is basically where is everything.
It's everything.
But they do have 55 million. They've invested in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or 11 companies so far. There's more than that. Sorry, I didn't go through their entire portfolio because it goes down a bit more. Some I've heard of, some I have not. But they came out of stealth, I'd say, a couple days ago to last week. So they are looking for projects. So that and MoonPay, actually. MoonPay announced a Web3 ventures arm, and I'm a big fan of MoonPay. I like MoonPay. I use them a couple of times. It's a bit complicated when you're getting IP pings because, oh wait, my IP is based in Thailand, but I'm in Canada, but I can actually use this if I'm in Canada, but my computer's still saying I'm in Thailand. It's a nightmare. Right. But when it works really well. But they've got, like, their investment thesis, obviously, they've been around for a while, so they're much more comprehensive, and they have their investment thesis for 3 areas, for infra, gaming, and fintech, which is still pretty broad. And it's still good to see people at least really trying with gaming still.
I know.
I'm glad to see it has not completely died, because I just still see it working so well if you can get the players around it.
Absolutely. Building community.
But it's not just community. It's the real bad time we had last year and the year before with gaming and Web3. It was so sour and so nasty. And there's no need. There's no difference between buying something in Fortnite, I've bought a skin, I've bought this with funds in the game, and buying something in a Web3 game. The only thing is you can take that out of the game. We don't have that technology yet where it's cross-usable, but you can still take it out and you still own it, instead of, I've paid this gaming studio and they own it. And if they don't like what I did, they can just take they can take my hit points, they can take my armor, they can take my weapons, they can take everything.
Yep.
I've spent thousands of dollars on this character and now, whoop, gone. So I see an absolute synergy, symbiosis with gaming and Web3, and it just shouldn't have gone as badly as it did.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm
like
off
you
on my
said,
tangent.
No,
but-
like you said, it should be technology that sits in the background behind all this. And that it should be, hey, do you want to play a Web3 game? It's like,
Nope.
No. Do you want to play a game where when you buy a sword, you can actually, that you own that and you can sell it back or you can bring it with you? Now, like you said.
Yeah, like nobody can take it from you unless you say, yeah, here, buy it from me.
Yeah,
Perfect.
exactly.
Yeah, great.
No, I like both of these, and that MoonPay being corporate venture capital, right? When it's in the bleeding edge direction of technology, it's less old school corporate venture capital and more kind of, hey, we want to build and grow our ecosystem. And we want a seat at the table on these investments. And that the VP of corporate development and investments at MoonPay, that is Abe Mavalankar, that he said, where they're really focusing is that if you think you have a good idea, there's probably 10 plus teams working on it at any time, but we're looking for teams who can execute those things. Right? And
exceptional
it's
founders
so
and
true.
exceptional teams.
Exactly. It's so true. Because it's like you get excited by so many good ideas. And it's just, don't tell me your idea. Tell me about you. I want to know, can you execute? Have you executed before? And I saw a pitch from somebody who shall remain nameless this week. And it's, I love the team. I hate the product. And just don't do that. I actually said it to them. I think I got to be more
do that,
honest
do
with
something
people.
else.
I said, I really love you guys as a team. You've got great background and I can see what you've done and built before. But please, I think you're capable of doing so much more. And hopefully they do come back with some better ideas.
With something, yeah.
I think they might be too far gone, too far down the pipe. But that's so true. So if MoonPay are digging in here, wonderful. And the more they can bring to the space, the better. I'm seeing tons around people talk about infrastructure and fintech.
Yeah.
And it's that nice little crossover here, and that all these rails have been built around moving value. Started with that crypto just being an extension of fintech into a big interplanetary extension of fintech, but it is, they're at least cousins. But like what I'm seeing there, Vessel Capital, same, but like you said, these guys are doing other things as well.
Yeah, they're doing other things. So I don't know if this is their main focus, obviously, because they have other jobs. However, the announcement of any, to be fair, it's so dire out there. And the way they worded it is, being founders ourselves, we're really keen on supporting founders, and they've been through the journey of being a founder and building something. What I got from their announcement was that they actually wanted to be value add VC rather than just writing a check and going away. So that remains to be seen. However, that's always positive noise rather than negative noise. So good to hear that. You know,
I was encouraged as well by, I think it was Mirza Udin, the co-founder. He said, crypto has become more global, so it's not the same circle and group you might have seen in 2018, 2020. And we want to be able to help more people. Great. Good. And yes, this needs to expand beyond the group that was 2018 to 2021. Absolutely.
2018 to 2021, everyone's moved to AI now.
Exactly.
Except for me.
Oh man. I've seen so many. I've seen companies
like a large language model for
that were Web3 that were now every single bit of anything having to do Web3 has been completely eradicated from their website.
Yep.
And even in their URL, and their URL never said Web3, but now their URL has AI in it. Right. So it's like, Jesus.
Yeah. If people are doing that, they're chasing a hype cycle. Just make sure you can build it.
The last thing that I know that you had in mind to talk about, Laura, it's what's Elon up to?
Oh,
right? This could almost be a daily podcast.
This could be.
If we were going to do what's Elon doing?
What's Elon done today?
What Bitcoin did with Peter? What's his name?
With Peter McCormick. He's a lovely guy. I like Peter.
What Bitcoin did, what Elon did.
Right? Yeah, what Elon did. What did Elon do today? I'm not going to talk about his proposed lawsuit with the ADL. That's something for another day and another podcast, I think. But what he's doing is, I think he released a tweet, and I'm still going to call it a tweet. I'm not going to call it a skeet or whatever he says they're called now, that LinkedIn was cringe and out of date. And I keep reminding myself that this is a 52-year-old man. But he says LinkedIn is cringe and nobody uses LinkedIn and LinkedIn is lame and old. And okay, great. So what they're going to do is they beta released a jobs/hiring board. And what I saw was that Coinbase is actually testing this out. You have to be a verified company. So the verified company accounts are the ones with the gold badges. And I think they're like something like $1,000 a month. So you have to be part of that and I think, I'm not sure. I read a couple of articles on it, but they didn't really go into deep detail because this is still in beta. I think you may have to have a certain amount of ad spend per month because of his ad revenues. As he stated himself, it's down 60% in the USA. Yeah, I think there might be an ad revenue rider on that as well. You can put your jobs right out there on Twitter, which I am a heavy user, but I've kind of eased off a little bit lately because I don't like what he's done to it.
Yeah. You're not the only one.
It's just I don't like, but Blue Sky hasn't really captured my, you can't get all the people that are in Twitter into Blue Sky because it's still invite and that's still running in beta, and Threads apparently just died. Threads came and then Threads went. Gone. But I was reading some other articles on people trying to develop, and actually it was a Coinbase tweet as well talking about a Web3 job board, Web3 focused job boards. Now they do have Web3 focused job boards, but they were talking about tying it into soulbound tokens so you can verify your credentials.
Yeah, I've seen so many propositions
on chain.
Around that.
Exactly. There's a lot, but I think it was Brian Armstrong talking about it. Why can't we have a Web3 job board? Dude, we do. We have a lot of them. But LinkedIn is still where most people are going. It's their professional profile. Is it Facebook? Yeah, kinda. It's boomery. Yeah, absolutely. But people have monetized it. They've added LinkedIn creators. People have still monetized this and people are still on there. And I don't know, it's a bit grandfathered in. And I don't know how jobs on X will go or X hiring.
It doesn't feel like it will. But if this is part of the long term, and this was Elon's first acquisition after he bought Twitter was Lasky, which was this job board type app. And if his long-term view of getting to WeChat is what's at play here, there's a lot more that he has to do. There's tons more that he has to do.
Oh, yeah.
And this is just one step. So we looked at the WeChat ecosystem before and talking about this about 20 episodes ago. And you've got social, you've got content, games, services in terms of the public transportation type services, linked to your identity, shopping, video. We could do a whole episode just talking about this. If he wants to go that far, this is just one piece of it. So I'm kind of like, okay.
I see where he's going with it, especially with all those money licenses he's been getting in each state falling like dominoes now. To be honest, he's never going to be WeChat because WeChat is the government oversight into WeChat is just omnipresent and he can't do that cross country. He just cannot. The level of integration of WeChat into the daily life of people who can use WeChat, you can use it outside of China. We have it in Thailand. Not that many people use it really, but if you can pay by Alipay, then you can use your WeChat wallet. But government services and stuff, no, I don't see him going that way. But money, yeah, I see him trying with money. He's really trying to bring back X for
definitely.
PayPal.
Definitely.
It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, no, he wants to go there. And I wanted to talk to somebody who has good experience with using WeChat and say, where could WeChat go? Would Elon be trying to build the WeChat of today? Or would he be trying to build the WeChat of tomorrow, and how far could it go? And what are the pieces that would let you get there? I was going to chat to Howie Young from Protico, and he would probably have a pretty good view on this, especially in the Web 2 to Web 3 crossover point. And I will tiptoe it down the first steps of the avenue of Sam Williams telling me that Web 3 is the protocolization of web services. It has nothing to do with VR, AR, and all that. And that could you actually protocolize? Payments are already protocolized, file storage is already protocolized, it's all open source. But could you protocolize everything that's involved with WeChat? And could you make that all open source and let people just combine it in whatever different combinations that they thought was going to be helpful to the ecosystem community they were trying to build? Yeah, go into some bigger thoughts here on this.
That is a rabbit hole or blue ocean type thing. Yeah, that's Wow. That's for another day, but that is a lot.
So we'll see where Howie gets me to with this, because he's been doing some cool writing on LinkedIn recently. It's not dead, right? We know it.
No, it's not dead.
Although Elon thinks it may be, and it seems to be making a little bit of a comeback, but there's still that annoying LinkedIn Messenger that.
I do not want people messaging me.
Yeah.
I hate saying that because there's so many lovely people I've actually interacted with on LinkedIn. So that's not 100% fair. It's just the cold. Once in a while, the cold outreach is.
Yeah, like would love to have you as part of my network. I'm like, no. I'm not going to let you be part of my network. We've never met. I don't know you. I don't know who you are. You cannot be part of my network.
I think I'm way too nice. And I'm like, sure, what can I do? And then I find out I can't do anything because I'm not investing right now. Oh, okay, sorry, I can't.
Yep, I drew the line. John Hill, shout out to John Hill from Techstars. He's like, Pete, draw the line. You don't want to let anybody else in if you've never met them or you've never had an exchange with them. And unless you plan to, unless that outreach is the trigger to talk to somebody and say, hey, we're going to set up a call. Let's connect on LinkedIn because we're about to chat. So
true.
Great. Job done. Okay. So Laura, listen, thank you so much for coming on to the show. It's been awesome having you with us as we piece through these stories for the first time without Owen. So I really appreciate it. And I can't wait to do this again.
Thanks so much, Pete. Thank you for letting me be the first. And thank you, Owen, for putting such big shoes to fill. It was fun.
Thanks, Laura.
Thanks.
That does it for this week, folks. And you can learn more about the stories we covered in the show notes on our website, moneyneversleeps.ie. Thanks to Laura Walsh for the awesome insights she shared in co-hosting this episode with me. If you like what you heard, please leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, as it helps others to find the show. Also, thanks to Conan Brophy from Create Sound for mixing and editing this episode. Conan is an excellent media man to get in touch with when you're thinking about launching your own podcast. As for me, I'm an early-stage startup investor focused on where fintech meets crypto and crypto meets Web3, and I lead the Techstars Web3 Accelerator. There are plenty of links in the show notes on moneyneversleeps.ie on how to get in touch with us, so don't hesitate to reach out. Finally, till next time, thanks for listening. See ya!
Money never sleeps, pal.